Yes, Sam, we're live. How you doing, friends? There's a question that has been bugging me. Not just one question, but a whole series of questions that have been bugging me not just recently, but since this whole coronavirus thing started, since our lockdown started, since we knew or discovered that this virus came from China. No one's overtly coming out and saying that this was a deliberate act. However, there are plenty of conspiracy theories that seem to comport, that are hard to ignore. But even if there wasn't a conspiracy, at least for, say, releasing the virus on purpose, I think it's pretty well known that the virus was developed or studied in Wuhan in their virology, their highly secure virology lab, and somehow it escaped, whether it was on purpose or not. But the questions that I'm going to ask, they may imply whether or not it was on purpose, but they certainly do point to malfeasance on China's part after that virus was released or found its way out or escaped. Well, for example, after the virus was released, China summarily cut off all transportation to domestic locations from Wuhan. All. However, it did not cut off international destinations. So people could fly out. Nobody could come in. Nobody could go to another province in China. Shanghai is close. Beijing is close. Shanxi. All of these cities close by. Wuhan is a very, very centralized place. And as a matter of fact, it's hard to get out of Wuhan without going through one of these other cities. Yet, nobody else in China seems to be having a problem with this. None of the other provinces are affected. Beijing is not affected. Shanghai is not affected. Most of the Chinese Communist Party are in Beijing. None of them have come down with the Wuhan virus. None of them. China says now that they're open for business, yet in the entire world, there isn't a single country open for business. Well, that's not necessarily true. We have Sweden. They took the let's get the herd mentality, the herd immunity going mentality. So all of these things are true. Nobody else is suffering like, everyone is suffering, or nobody in China is suffering like everybody else in the entire world. The entire world is afflicted. China is spared. Yet, the virus emanated from there. How is that possible? How? How is it in any way possible, especially considering the infectious rate that this spread? How did they contain 70 million people to not drift off into other parts of China if it was not coordinated? Just by chance alone, it seems so statistically improbable and not just, a relatively low chance, but an astronomically low chance. So implying that it was deliberate. I mean, my questions of how and why are really rhetorical at this point. So Chris is asking, do I believe their numbers? No, I don't believe their numbers. But that's still, let's say that we believe their numbers. All right? If you believe their numbers, then you have to think that they are 100% guilty of exacting a bioweapon on the rest of the world. 100%. If you don't believe the numbers, and just by the mere fact that none of the Chinese Communist Party has come down with anything, at least as far as we know, you have to believe this again, because here we are 10,000 miles away, and we have people within our Congress and others that are affected. They're not in Wuhan, they're not in Shanghai, they're not in Beijing. How is that possible? It's not possible, is the answer. It is not possible at all. Every city is closed. Every city is closed. Shanghai is open. Beijing is open. Wuhan is open. How is that possible? Not a single, I'll repeat this, not a single Chinese Communist Party member has contracted Wuhan. Not a single Chinese advanced military person has contracted Wuhan coronavirus. Not one single one. How do we respond to that? How? I wanted this to be a more emotionally packed, rant about what's going on here. But it's hard, it's hard to, that seems to be all past now. Now it's a matter of bewilderment. You go through these stages. What do we do from here? How do we respond? We can't even respond just yet. We can't respond until we get a handle on all of this. Now, let's say I pose a scenario. What would happen? And maybe this is a conspiracy theory. It's not really a conspiracy theory because nothing's really happened yet. But let's say, what would happen if China were to offer the world right now, or within the next month or so, maybe after maximum pain has been inflicted, they would offer a vaccine and a cure. So a vaccine is more preventative, but let's say that they came up with a cure as well, and they offered that to the world. Then what would you think? Would you think that they are our saviors, that we should be thanking them? Let's say they came up with this thing within the next few months, which we know is practically impossible. Let's say that they had also quickly developed the ability to distribute this vaccine or cure. How would we take that? Would we take the vaccine? Would we take the cure? I know I wouldn't. I would look upon that as absolute proof that they did this with malicious intent. I don't see how you can look at that any other way. So that's what I'm waiting for. I think it's going to happen. I think that they are going to offer a number of different things, and it may lead up to that. I don't think they'll be stupid enough just to come out and offer that vaccine or that cure. It'll come in steps, but it will come quickly. You know, Mr. Happy, even if it was a cure, I wouldn't take it. But you're right, I wouldn't trust it either. So we can't take out the CCP. It's just not possible. What we can do is we can isolate them. We can essentially seize all their assets, which would essentially include all of Hollywood, many of the universities and the media, and perhaps also the DNC. I wish I were kidding when I said all of that. We can seize also and stop making payments on any of the bonds that they've purchased. No more interest rates to China. No more money for you. That's what we need to do. We need to isolate them financially and completely. Unfortunately, that's going to result in some kind of retaliation. So if all of this is true, and if they show their hand with some cure, which I think would be essentially their admission that they did this, because we know that there's just no way that they're going to come up with a cure unless it was already predisposed. How do we respond? That's the big question. Of course, we have a lot of our own stuff to deal with in the next few months. How are we going to get out of this hole? It's going to be very difficult. Perhaps when we come to grips with, that China is the culprit behind all of this, we can come together as a nation. I have little hope for that, too. So that's the question. That is the question, my friends. Please go down to the comments below and let's hear your theory, your answer to these questions. Again, the basic question is, what if China produces a cure, a vaccine, or anything that makes a material difference in ridding ourselves of the coronavirus? What would that say? All right, that is all. See you next video.